Wow. Boys in the Hood. Let's go on this one because there's a lot to digest with this
Yeah,
one.
it's your normal lighthearted comedy. I'm sure you enjoyed it.
Well, I gotta say, coming out of our Fright month where we did 5 weeks straight
It's
of
scarier than
horror,
everything.
and yes, and of course the assumption would be that we would probably pick something a little more light, right? A lighter fare, maybe a comedy, maybe even maybe even a rom-com or something. No, we went straight to the hood, man. We went from one type of horror to another.
Well, some of Cuba Gooding Jr.'s acting could be considered comedy. So I did get a lot of amusement out of Radio.
Actually, a lot of this movie could be considered comedy. I'll be honest with you.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. It's starting already, Dana. Your childhood is going to get ruined today.
Oh, it's not only his, man. It's not only his. Let's go, man. Let's go full force on Boyz in the Hood. Do we want to get into the plot, or do we want to just?
Why not?
As we start our beautiful story of Boyz in the Hood, we start off with a young main character of Trey, as young Trey is heading to school. Young Trey's heading to school with another little boy and some two little girls. And as they're heading to school, like, you are already put in this area of California where they are at. You hear the helicopters, you see yellow crime tape. Like, you're like, oh shit, we're in not exactly the best neighborhood of California as these kids are heading to school. The first thing that I definitely remember, and it kind of just makes me laugh, is as we're heading to school, you kind of remember your schoolyard banter of just like, this is what's going on or whatever. But it kind of puts you into just how kids really talk. When your parents are around, you're going to say every single curse word. You're going to try to get to that curiosity. And, we meet young Trey, and he's already kind of talking about just like, they're walking and they're just like, yeah, man, I heard somebody got smoked the other day. And, his little buddy is like, man, whatever, my brothers both got shot. It ain't no big deal. The little girl right behind him is just like, I heard that, you need to be careful what you say because bullets ain't have no name. So, I mean, like, we're already starting with just like, this is the type of world that John Singleton built for us as we're just heading to school. Trey, who's the main character, kind of leading the way, and his little buddy, he's like, hey, do you want to see something? This whole thing of wanting to see something was taking this little group, and they're going towards some yellow crime tape. And as they go through some yellow crime tape, they see some blood. They obviously see a sign of what was a murder.
Now, before you go any further, I have to make this observation, and I'm sure when this scene came on for you guys as well, of course, it was obviously trying to do a Stand By Me. They're literally walking on train tracks while they say this. Well, you want to see something, and I was like, wow, John Singleton.
No, he did say that it was an obvious beginning and the end of the film too. He says the end of the film is also, where they talk about what happens to the characters is very similar to the end of Stand By Me as well.
Oh yes, at the end you see notes as to what happened to the characters after the movie. But
So Scott brought that up in part one of just hey, like, there was a part of Stand By Me, or just like, when we talk about like the scene of just noticing a dead body, which isn't even this scene yet.
Yeah.
John Singleton, I saw an interview where he was just basically talking about how he actually was clearly influenced by Stand By Me, but, it just didn't speak enough. It just didn't resonate enough for him. So I love the idea of like, he's like, yeah, I like Stand By Me, but can we add more ghetto and can we add more gangster violence?
Yes.
Then it's like, perfect. This is exactly what my childhood was. Stand By Me now makes more sense, right? And that's, I agree. The scene I thought you were going to point to, which was, they had so many of these things. So one of my favorite movies I told you was like the parody of this. And that's all I kept hearing was like, don't be a menace in the hood while drinking your juice in the hood. But like, everything was just like, every time they had something that was a message, they always made fun of it in the parody of like, message.
Yeah.
And so the very first message that happens during that scene as he's taking him to go see like this, where this guy got smoked. You guys saw how they had the posters of Reagan.
Yes,
And
Reagan. Yes.
and the little kid is flicking off Reagan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it was just funny because it was just John Singleton's moment of just like, yeah, remember this whole like say no to drugs and da da da. Fuck that. Which it's a very easy, popular thing to say now, but I do find it kind of funny during his time while he knew what was going on. He was like, oh, yeah, no, that Reagan shit, but he was saying all that. Yeah, that was all bullshit.
And what made it even more hilarious was it was like bullet written. like it was full of bullet holes, the poster, and I got a nice little chuckle out of that. Actually,
the detail, yes. That did make me laugh. I was like, oh, I really didn't remember that. But yeah, so we're continuing to school. Trey makes it to school. Trey, we're in class, and you're listening to this monotone, boring ass teacher, and you immediately know that Trey is one of those kids you hear about all the time. Trey is smart. But he's so smart within this house and where he's at in this school that he's a troublemaker. That's clearly what you always hear about these type of kids. And the first thing is brought up is, as we know in 2023, not only just Christopher Columbus Day, but Indigenous People Day. They talk about just like how Christopher Columbus came by and he discovered America. And so Trey off the back is kind of making fun of it and already just laughing about the premise. His teacher calls him out and is like, yeah, if you're so smart, why don't you come up here and teach? So he goes up to the front and he's like, all right, she goes, oh, what's your dissertation going to be about? What's your lecture going to be about? And he's like, huh, what? And of course, like as a badass, she's like, what are you going to talk about? And he goes, well, you let me talk, dang. But
oh my God, he was such a wiseacre, man.
What a bastard.
Oh man. Man.
But he talks about Africa, and he talks about something that's widely, I wouldn't even necessarily say known, but widely believed about how we know that the original man was found in Africa, but basically just saying how everybody has some form has come from Africa. He was trying to really just put that in there of like, hey, this is a real thing. That means everybody in here, no matter what, you've come from Africa. His little buddy is like, yeah, that's cool. Fuck you. I'm Crenshaw Mafia. I'm not from North Africa. he said the old perfect line that, I ain't no African booty scratcher, which is great.
Oh my goodness.
That's definitely my childhood. We definitely said African booty scratcher a lot. And basically he fights with his kid. He's troubled, gets sent home from school, where we meet a character who I totally fucking forgot in part one.
How can we forget Angela Bassett?
I've totally
St. Petersburg's own Angela Bassett. She's from St. Pete. She's from my hometown, and I forgot all about her.
How dare
you? You're a terrible person, Scott.
I know. And then she's in this with Lawrence Fishburne, and a few years later they do the Tina Turner. What's Love got to do with it?
Yes.
Together. So yeah, they play Ike and Tina a few years later.
Like so many of just parallels, so many connections throughout the cast throughout the different parts of history. But it is funny that we were like, oh, this person's an icon. This person's an icon. And we like totally forgot the one icon. Mm-hmm. I mean, she clearly has a smaller role, but it was like, oh shit, we totally forgot about her.
Yeah.
But Angela Bassett plays the mother who gets news about her son and is absolutely just, hey, we made this agreement that if you were to make a mistake and you were to live with your father and, you have made this mistake and you're going to live back. But what they try to at least portray, even with Angela Bassett, of like, hey, she's a strong Black woman and, hey, Black people are not a monolith. She was taking exception to how the teacher was trying to describe Trey of just like, oh, but, maybe needs better home parenting or whatever. And, if you're out of the house all the time, basically putting out those cues where she's just like, hey, lady, like I'm educated, like chill. We're going to talk about my son. And then even throws the whole thing of like, well, I'll have to bring it up with his father, in which the lady was surprised. And of course, she had to throw that back in her face of like, oh, did you think we made them ourselves? So, it was really like, you knew what time it was with Angela Bassett's character of just portraying an independent, strong Black woman, but at the same time, kind of going through the same hardships of a young boy who clearly needs his father in his life. And that's another big giant message that Singleton was pointing through of just like, hey, you know, you need that. Go ahead.
And what a father, because I mean, Jesus Christ, this is the most heavy-handed father, man. I would have hated to have Lawrence Fishburne in that character role as a father.
His lazy ass ain't doing nothing, man. Make the kid do all the work around the house.
Holy smoke. And
hey, scrub that dirty ass tub, kid.
Yeah. And on top of that, everything was a lesson. Everything like this man was no fun. Yes, thank you. No fun whatsoever.